My name is Jeremy SOSVILLE. I'm the guitar player and backing vocalist for Sanhedrin. On March 14th, we got an album called Heat Lightning coming out on Metal Blade Records, which is available for pre-order now. I got a single up called Blind Wolf. You can watch the video on the Metal Blade YouTube. Got a second single drop in about 12 hours from the time we're taping this. And yeah, we're pretty excited.
Fantastic, brother. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
No worries. So, as you mentioned, Sanhedrin release your new album, Heat Lightning, on March the 14th. So, how are you feeling about it?
Pretty excited. It's been a long time coming when you consider the early moments of writing the first songs, demoing the record, writing the record, recording, getting the artwork together, the layout, the step by step by step. It's pretty unreal that in just a few weeks the record will be unleashed to the world and we'll start the next phase, which is putting ourselves in front of people.
You actually mentioned a good point there. Like these days, there's so many steps to releasing an album. Like going back to 10 years ago, you'd record it, you'd set a date, you'd release a few singles, and that was it. But these days, you just got to go through so many hoops, I guess, before you release it. Does it get monotonous?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into it that you don't necessarily fantasize about when you're first picking up that guitar, bass, or drums as a kid, and are like, I'm going to be a rock star someday. You have to learn a lot of skills outside of just, writing your songs and playing your instrument and all that stuff in order to take advantage of the opportunities that act of making the music in the first place may present itself to you. So yeah, there's a constant learning curve. The technology and the trends of how people receive their music is constantly changing as you know, as we've seen through the decades. And so you just kind of have to adapt or die.
So tell us a bit more about Heat Lightning from a musical point of view and what you were going for with the album.
It's hard to say what I don't know if we're consciously going for anything. Every album we make sort of comes together pretty organically. The first two songs we wrote were the title track, Heat Lightning and High Threshold for Pain, which are two very different songs with very different kind of influences, so to speak. And so we decided from there we have to make the rest of the songs we write for this record make enough sense and have enough connective tissue that those two songs can live on the same record and have it make sense. So I think we did that. I think the recording quality, the sonic quality of the album is our punchiest and clearest yet. So I think we accomplished a lot of things we've been trying to accomplish with previous records, but maybe we're coming up short in different ways. We got a lot of those accomplished this time around. So it's a very complete representation of our band at this time.
Nice. And you mentioned a single, Blind Wolf, that was released recently. Is that a good sonic representation of what to expect, or is it just off of one layer?
It's kind of an initial layer. So that's the first song on the record as well. It's kind of an introduction to the experience ahead. If you're sitting down and dropping the needle and sitting back for the journey. And we thought, with every first single of every record we've done, we're really thinking about the people who've never heard us before and how can we bring them into what we're about, get them curious to hear more. And so a song like that that's quite catchy, quite straightforward, but still representative of what we're about as a whole, as a band, was kind of what we were going for by having that song come out first.
And Heat Lightning follows on from the critically acclaimed 2022 album Lights On. So how's it different in respects to that album?
Well, the pandemic's not happening anymore, so that's
True.
that Lights On. We were really excited about that album, and we're all still very proud of it. But I feel like the world was in such a state of disarray that it was hard for us and many other bands as well to kind of get a solid footing, a solid plan. It seemed like all of our business relationships, the companies we deal with, whether it be the label or our booking agencies and stuff, they were also scrambling because it was just an unreal kind of time. So there's just a lot of chaos around it. This record seems to have a much more organized push behind it, which we're very grateful for. And hopefully, people who hear Heat Lightning and find out about us through that record maybe go back and can check that album out and our previous two before that. Because if you like Heat Lightning, you're probably going to like most of our other material because there are differences in every album, but we're a pretty consistent band in terms of what we offer our fans.
Now, we mentioned that Lights On did get a great critical reception, mate. So, as a band, is it tempting to rehash a winning formula when something like that happens, or is it important to move beyond that?
I think it's a little bit of both. So we're less concerned about critics and more concerned about our fans. So we've had a pretty loyal fan base from the jump. The reason we got signed was because people discovered us, online and just were curious. And so we want to stay true to what brought us our success that we've experienced to date. But we're also curious people. We're curious musicians, and we want to take sounds that we've never used before, take influences we've never used before on every album we do, and bring our fans along for the journey. And hopefully they enjoy it as much as we do. And so far, so good.
And you moved to a Utopia Bearsville studio for mixing and tracking on this album after spending the previous three albums, I believe, at the same studio. So, well, what effect did that have on the overall polish of the album, I guess, moving studios?
Oh, it's a tremendous effect. For one, the studio is quite legendary. So when you're in there, you sort of feel the ghosts in the walls of all these, platinum records that have been done through the decades in that place. But yeah, it's a totally different atmosphere. It's more of a what you'd consider to be A-level recording studio with the big console and all the fancy microphones and mic preamps and all that stuff. And then we had two engineers this time that were friends to the band, had a very clear understanding of what we were trying to accomplish. And between the two of them, they really had the skill set to get the sounds that were in our brains out through those speakers. And yeah, I think this record sonically is a little less warm than the first three records we did with our previous engineer, Colin, but they're a lot more crisp and clear and punchy. And it seems to fit the material on this album very well.
And the cover work's pretty cool too, mate. It's a hand-painted piece of work by Johan Prenger. So tell us about that and how it fits into the album.
Well, Johan is a big time supporter of the band. I've known him since before I was in Sanhedrin through my old band Black Anvil. And behind me, if you can see these pictures of Van Halen and Randy Rhoads, those are paintings he did.
Oh, wow. Alrighty, eh?
Yeah, yeah. So I have four of his paintings at my house, and I had them prior to contacting him about doing the album cover. So the first three albums, we had the same artists work on those, just like we had the same tracking engineer and same studio. So we changed that up too. So we contacted Johan. He was happy to do the album cover. And then Johan and Erica got together to discuss some of the lyrical themes that were common throughout the whole record. And they came to the very striking image that you see as the album cover.
Very nice. Now, if you had to sort of loosely describe your music, mate, like it's basically traditional metal mixed with hard rock. But when in the creative process, like how do you go about bringing those together cohesively? Like, is it trial and error? Do you win more than you lose more than you win?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of this is sort of this is essentially what we sound like when the three of us put our heads together to write songs. We have a between the three of us, we have a lot of common influences, but we also have a lot of influences that are, unrelated to one another. And this is sort of the sum of the parts. We don't set out necessarily to ration the heavy metal to the hard rock. We just sort of use our musical backgrounds and our abilities to blend everything together to serve the song. So some songs on this album are straight up pound you in the face heavy metal. Other songs have a lot more of a rock element to it. And then some are, a pretty half and half combination of both. And it's really not a conscious thing so much as every song uh, kind of tells you what it needs as you're writing it.
Nice. Now, the album Heat Lightning is out on March the 14th. So, what have you got planned after that? Have you got a bit of a promotional tour?
Yeah, we got a few dates in the US. March 20th, we're playing the Hell's Heroes Festival in Houston, Texas. We're going to Tulsa, Oklahoma about a week and a half later to play the Bangover Brunch, which is sort of a post-festival show for 2 Minutes to Tulsa Fest. We'll play in Pittsburgh, April 26th, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, with our friends Lady Beast. And then in May and June, we will get on the big jet airplane and head to Europe with our friends in Savage Master and do about 3 weeks in Europe.
Very nice. Sounds like you got a busy period coming up.
Yeah, it should be fun. We're looking forward to it.
Fantastic, Jeremy. Well, thanks very much for your time today, mate. Heat Lightning is out March 14th through Metal Blade Records. So get yourself a copy pre-order now or hook it up as soon as she comes out.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.